Today we're taking a break from our usual journeys to bring you something a little bit different. We've noticed a lot of you have been curious about our motovlog setup. So we thought, why not show you how we capture our adventures? So strap in and let's get started. In this video, we'll be diving into the nitty-gritty of the setup, from the gear we use to how we mount our cameras for the best shots. We're going to start out by answering the number one question we get about our setup, and that is, what camera do you use to get that 360 video? So after a lot of research, we ended up with the Insta360 X3. And the nice thing about this camera is that it captures up to 5.7K and 360 degree video. It carries a 1/2-inch 48 megapixel sensor. It also captures 72 megapixel 360 photos. And you can shoot in dual mode or a 4K single mode also. And you'll see as we go forward here, the nice feature is the invisible selfie stick that you can use that disappears when you edit. For those of you who don't know, how this shoots in 360 is it actually has two lenses, one on the front and one on the back. So when you're filming, you basically just start it up and it's filming on both sides, and then you take it into the Insta360 Studio software, and that's where you can reframe everything. And we'll show you how that's done a little bit later in the video. And when we're talking about the invisible selfie stick, basically you have a selfie stick that attaches to it. You can use it in any length that you want, but the nice thing about it is it has what they call the stitching around the 180 degree mark. So anything that's flat within that stitching will not show up on the final video. So we'll show you again how that's reframed when we pull it into the software. But that gives you a lot of options about shooting in different angles and different areas. The easy thing is just to mount it somewhere on the bike and start shooting. Then you can edit in the 360 Studio software. So we're going to show you how we mount it to our motorcycle, but first thing I want to do is talk about how we get our sound attached to that. So all of this, of course, has been with a lot of trial and error. These weren't our first choices on all these, but we eventually found the best sound we get is from the Rode wireless GoTo system. And this particular system comes with a receiver, and it comes with two microphones. So obviously with Dawn and I both riding, we mount one in each helmet. And the way we've done that is basically we've just put two hook and loop strips on each microphone. And then we have actually put some hook and loop tape inside the microphone. You can basically see here, and we just mount it somewhere inside the helmet, and then we'll close it up. And again, that's something you really have to experiment with to find the best locations, and we've played around with it quite a bit to try to get the best locations in the helmet. So the nice thing about the Rode wireless system that we found with versus other speakers and other microphones is it has a very good sound dampening device in it. It's called the pad. So basically with the other systems that we used, you would get on the bike, start it up, and you couldn't hear us talking at all over the sound of the bike. So what this does, this has a feature that's called a pad, and you can turn the pad on. So what it does is it more amplifies your voice and it dampens the background noise. So you can still hear the bike, but it balances out your voice versus the bike, so your bike doesn't overshadow what you're trying to say. And it has different settings as far as turning down decibels, turning up decibels. So again, you really have to play with the settings to determine what's best for you, but it does have that feature. The one thing we do have to remember is if we're using it when we're just filming off the bike, we do have to remember to turn the pad off, because it will in that situation, you don't want it dampening the background noise. So, but it's very easy with one button just to turn that pad off and on. So to actually use the Rode Wireless, you need a couple different accessories. First accessory is being the adapter where the microphone can plug in to the Insta360. So that plugs in like that. You also have to use a mount that you can just take a short selfie stick or any selfie stick you want, and it mounts onto there to hold it in place. You take the actual receiver, attach the receiver on there, and then you have the adapter plug that plugs into the side and plugs in there. So then once you turn this on and you use your mics, it transfers to the receiver, and then the sound goes into the Insta360. So now that you know what type of camera we use and what our sound system we use, we're going to show you now how we mount it to the bike. And it really, for you, will depend on what type of bike you have, what type of mounting positions you have on your bike as far as your frame, and then what you're comfortable doing. Because even though you clamp this onto your bike, there have been stories about people having this fall off, and it's not cheap, so you want to make sure it's very secure. So the mounting point we use the most is on the upper right side, and we have an actual clamp, C-clamp right here that clamps onto the mirror frame. And I do have a backup on this, as I have a couple twist ties attached to this, so for some reason this would come loose. The twist ties will still hold it up. So basically we have this mounted. We have a short selfie stick attached to this, and it basically attaches to the bike as such. The one bit of advice I would have is, I mentioned that stitching point around the 180. You want to have anything that's close to that stitching point will kind of show broken up on the final editing. So you don't want anything close. So for instance, we don't want it turned to the windshield here, because it'll show the windshield broken up. So I make sure it's tightened up all the way, but it's turned a little bit of an angle. And the angle really doesn't matter, because you're going to have a 360 view. So that's the most common setup that I use. So now that we have it mounted here, there's a couple different ways to start it and stop videoing while we're going. There is a button on the lower left side that I can just reach up when I'm on the bike and start it, and then I can reach up and actually stop it. Or there's actually a remote that you can get as an additional accessory that you can Bluetooth to the camera, and I usually have it attached over here on my cup holder, and I'll simply just bring my left hand up and actually turn it on that way. I can turn it on and turn it off, or there's some times where Dawn will have this on the back and she'll turn it on and off for us. The advantage of turning it on and off with the GPS is that you can get then GPS information loaded to your video. So then you can put in the video GPS information such as your speed, elevation, slope, direction, complete route, things like that. Just a little bit of information that's kind of cool to put in the final video. I haven't used it a lot, but I would really like to use it a lot more, especially when we're traveling through the mountains. It's nice to show what elevation we're at and things like that. So that's the two different ways that you can start and stop your videoing. One of the other mounting points that I use frequently is more of a lower level look, and it requires the use of this clamp. And I'll basically just clamp this on down here and make sure it's as tight as you can get it. And then I will put the camera on down here. And again, get it as snug as you can possibly get it. And again, it doesn't really matter what direction that goes because you're getting a full 360. So the one downside to this is starting and stopping it is you basically have to start it, then get on the bike, do your videoing, stop it, get off the bike, and turn it off unless you are using the remote at the time. But this gives a really cool lower level look. And you can see the front tire behind you and close to the road. So the other mounting points we are able to use when Dawn's riding with me, if you're riding two up, is what I call the Dawn mount position, which I should probably come up with a different name for that. But anyway, we're going to use that today. So she will be holding the selfie stick on the back seat, and she'll do it in a couple different ways. So she basically just extends it, and she can hold it out as far as we possibly can given where we're riding. But again, it doesn't matter what direction the camera's going, pointing. You want to usually do it at a little bit of an angle so you don't get as much wind resistance. So as long as she's holding her hands in a position that looks casual, looks normal, you don't even see the selfie stick. And obviously she can do it the other direction too. So you get it from that side as well. And you could turn it, you can raise it up a little bit, you can raise it down a little bit, anything you want to do. The other cool angle is when she's sitting on the back, she'll put it over her shoulder and extend it a little bit more. So we get almost a drone look with it following behind us. So that's usually a really cool look too. And then the last one we use sometimes, and it's a little harder to show it with me, but she will sit on the back and she'll put it over my shoulder. So it'll come up over my front shoulder, so it gives us a little bit of a drone look, but more from the front side to the back. So, and it's always just good to give everybody some different angles, different looks while we're riding down the road, just to show off the scenery, show off the beauty of the area, show off the curves and things like that. So those are the different mounting points we use. If you don't have a two-up passenger, I do know people who will attach the selfie stick to different points on the back, the tour pack rack. Some people attach it to there, some people will attach it to different frame points here to basically do the same thing as what Dawn's able to do, holding it in the back. Okay, so now that we have our raw footage on our 360 camera, we will upload it to the Insta360 Studio software to do our reframing. So we're going to show you that briefly. Once the clip is uploaded from the camera to the Studio software, you can see how you can use your cursor to move the frame around to any perspective you want. Then what you can do is set keyframes to lock in that position at that point in the clip. I'm just randomly setting some keyframes here so you can see how that works. Once your keyframes are set, this is what the clip would look like, transitioning from keyframe to keyframe, and there's different things you can do on transitions between keyframes. Then once your clip is the way you want it, then it's ready to upload into what I use as Premiere Pro for final editing. Well, we hope you found this behind-the-scenes look at two-wheel Buckeyes interesting and helpful. Remember, every ride is an adventure, and we're thrilled to have you along for ours. If you haven't already, consider subscribing and joining our community of riders. Until next time, keep the rubber side down and the adventure's coming. Ride safe, everyone.